Hey everyone, I'm Nathan Hughes. Welcome to the Reconcile podcast. We're so glad that you're here. We believe that God is calling all of us to a better future and to look inside and see our potential. That's really what this podcast is all about. So I'm glad that you checked this message out. Hope that you enjoy it and be encouraged. Let's all go out and reconcile the world. So what I'm doing this week is I'm focusing on the 4 things that we need to get good at in order to manage our relationships well and to really become a better version of ourselves and to become a better friend. Can anybody remember the 4 things that we talked about last week? What was the first one? Good, I'm so glad we're going over them. Yes, this is why I'm doing this. The first thing, so if anybody wasn't here last week, we talked about how to be alive is to be in relationship with someone, and whether it's family, coworker, significant other, spouse, whatever it is. And to be in relationship means that there's gonna be some conflict. It's just a part of being human. And so we talked about 4 things, and it took me about 25 minutes to show that there's conflict in all of our relationships, so I'm skipping that part. You just have to trust me, there is. And I talked about there's 4 things that we need to get good at in order to have healthy relationships. And the first one is to resist superiority. And I just wanted to ask, why do you guys think that's the first one?
Because relationship is about sacrifice.
It's about sacrifice. Why is it about sacrifice? Like, why do you have to sacrifice, you know? Why is this so hard? Like, that's why it's first. Why is it so difficult for us to do this? I was reflecting on this all week, and I'm just thinking about it. And you guys, just totally feel free to, jump in.
We're prideful.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. Yeah, you are. No, I'm just kidding. No, we are. And I was thinking about, where does that come from, you know? I'm always asking more questions and digging deeper and digging deeper. And some of us don't like to go deeper, and I'm saying you need to go deeper. You have to. You have to fight for self-awareness if you want to have healthy relationships. Otherwise, you're going to live your life thinking it's everybody else's fault. And that's a miserable life, you guys. Miserable life. So resist superiority is first because it's often the most difficult. And if we can't get that right, none of the other things are going to be able to happen. And it's so hard to resist superiority because we're prideful. And this is what I was thinking about, and I wouldn't say this in front of any other pastor because I'd probably get in trouble, but this is our problem. I think it's because we want to be like God. And we need to stop being like God. We need to stop wanting to be like God. That's pretty dangerous to say, huh? Yeah, Anita's like, what? You're about to get fired. That's how I felt, I swear. It's heretical, right? And this is what I was thinking about. In the garden in Genesis, it said Adam and Eve wanted to eat the fruit because they desired to be like God. And I'm like, wait a minute, like we're called to be like God. We were created in His image. That doesn't make sense. What is it? What does it mean in the Hebrew to be like God, you know? Can't stand when scripture seems so confusing like that. So I seriously, in seminary, I'm like, okay, so I got to read this in how many different versions and what lexicon and what commentary? Why? Like, why is it so difficult? So if the problem is we want to be like God and it gets us in trouble, it's like, whoa, Nate, what do you mean by that? In Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, it says, "For God knows that when you eat from the fruit, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Genesis chapter 3, verse 22 says, "And the Lord God said, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and live forever." So I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of, every single one of us wants to be like God. Every single one of us, whether we care to admit it or not. It's deep inside of who we are. You can see it's been in us since the beginning of time. And so then I think about, this is what I said, stop trying to be like God and start trying to be more like Jesus. Because that makes a lot of sense, right? Jesus is God. And then I go to Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 to 11. Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 to 11. And it says, have this mind among yourselves, which is yours. You have access to this mind in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God and did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped. Jesus did not try to strive for equality with the Father. Remember, if you guys were here, I was talking about how Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. I haven't read it, but he wrote it. And Hamlet is the character in the story. And imagine if Hamlet was like, I want to know what Shakespeare's like in the story. Hamlet can't do that. You can't just want to know what the author is like, right? That doesn't make sense. And sometimes we live our lives like that. Like, I just want to know what God is like. And it's like, you really can't do that. Your mind can't even grasp that. So what Shakespeare had to do was write himself into the play. And he became a character in the story. And I'm bringing this up again because it makes perfect sense to me. So what God did, because our minds can't grasp it, was he wrote himself into the human story, fully expressing himself in the person of Jesus Christ. So our problem is so often we want to be like God. It's deep inside all of us, you guys, even me. It's bad. But what we need to strive for is the mind of Christ, who did not seek equality with the Father, a thing to be grasped. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what we want. Ultimate authority. That's what we want. It doesn't matter like what your education level is. You think you know everything. And you get in an argument with someone and you're right even though you have no idea what you're talking about. You know? It's like, I can't explain it. Like, where did we go wrong? Yeah, when we ate the fruit. But I just think about these things. These things keep me up at night. I'm like, why deep down do I have the desire to be the ultimate authority in my life? You know how dangerous that is? You know how scary that is? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to recognize that no matter what we say or what we think, because 3/4 of the time we don't even know ourselves. We're so complex. Human beings are so deep, especially depending on our upbringing and our experiences and the trauma that we've seen and the stuff we've lived through. Like, some of us have been through a lot. And the first thing that we need to remember always is we're not ultimate authority. We're not. And that's the only way that we can have any chance of resisting superiority in life. I was just talking to someone before tonight, and one of my pet peeves, and I told him, I was like, dude, I'm late in the game with this Bible stuff. Like, I didn't grow up going to Sunday school. I couldn't stand Wednesday night youth group. I just didn't like being there. So I'm late in the game. I'm having to play catch up, and seminary is rough for me at times. But I was like, I don't ever want to lose that mentality or perspective. I don't ever want to feel like I know it all, you know? And I was telling him, one of my pet peeves is I can't stand people that think they do know it all. I just can't stand it. And that's a superiority thing in me, right? I don't know why that posture just really bugs me. And so I asked myself, why does that bug you, Nate? Like, what buttons is that pushing inside of you? I don't like going there, but I need to. So the first thing that we need to recognize is we're not ultimate authority. We're not. And that's the beautiful thing about Christianity is ultimate authority lies with God. And that's the one attribute of his character that we need to not strive for, right? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I just do damage when I think I'm ultimate authority. It's bad. We need authority in our lives. Man, I was the healthiest and performing the best when I had coaches, you know? When I was an athlete and I had coaches around me, I don't know if there's any athletes in the room, accountability. And those are things that we so often don't have in our lives, especially as young adults. You know, don't tell me what to do. I want to live my life. I'll figure it out. I got to experience it for myself. You don't have to, but you can. You can. So the first thing we need to do is resist superiority. And I believe the only way that we're going to be able to resist it is recognize where it comes from. Is recognizing where it comes from. And I wrote down last week There's this verse, and I'm going to put all this stuff up on the screen because I want you guys to be able to write it down if you see it. The verse that comes from that main point is Proverbs chapter 11, verses 12 to 13. And it says, whoever derides their neighbor has no sense, but the one who has understanding, who knows that they're not ultimate authority, is able to hold their tongue. I don't need to lash back out at you right now. I don't need to tell you how you're wrong and I'm right, because that's only going to do more harm. So whoever derides their neighbor, remember this word derides means to look down upon. It means to look down upon. Whoever looks down upon their neighbor has no sense. You have no perception of reality. Your view of yourself is so distorted because that's what sin does. You think way too highly of yourself. But the one who has understanding, who recognizes that they're not ultimate authority, is able to hold their tongue. Why? Because a gossip betrays a confidence. This means somebody who has ill will towards another person, someone who gossips, someone who slanders, they end up creating more destruction in that relationship. You're not doing yourself a favor by venting to your best friend about your other best friend, right? It doesn't make sense. Just go talk to the other best friend that you're mad at, you know? Life would be so much easier. A trustworthy person keeps a secret. I wrote down last week, you cannot stay angry at somebody unless you feel superior to them. If you didn't write that down last week, you need to write that down. You cannot stay angry at someone unless you feel superior to them. When we feel superior, we exaggerate our righteousness. Our perception of ourself is so off. We have too high a view of ourself. We exaggerate our goodness. This means that we're placing ourselves in a higher authority. And then what do? We exaggerate others' sin. We exaggerate others' sin. And this gives us a distorted view of ourselves and others. And I was thinking about this too, you guys. Do you think people intentionally want to hurt you in life? No. Why do you think, so for the most part in my life, I feel superior when I'm being attacked, right? When I feel like I'm being attacked, verbally, non-verbally, whatever it is, body language, whatever it is. Say something that I disagree with, whatever it is. When someone lashes out at me or attacks me or communicates in a way that I don't think is okay, do you think their intention was to hurt me? Most likely not. Do you think that they're probably hurting deep down? Probably. Why do we lash out at other people? Like, think about it. Fear. Control. Good. Preach to me tonight. Hurt people. We're afraid to get even. Yeah. So this is what's really difficult, and everybody else has to go on this journey for themselves. Nobody else can do this for you. You have to go on this journey for yourself with the Lord. You could have helpers on the way, but nobody can do this for you but yourself. Is deep down, we can't resist superiority, and we lash out because of things that have happened in our life. Every single past experience stays with us no matter what we think. Like, you can have freedom from those past experiences, but you can also be in bondage. But no matter what, they stay with you. And so what happens when I lash out at someone or I relate to someone in an angry way, or I was talking to a friend last week and he was telling me, and I agree, when we step into a room, we subconsciously start categorizing people in the room. Like, up, they're a friend. I don't even know them, but I know they're a friend. Up, they're an enemy. Oh, they look powerful. Yeah, I'm gonna butt heads with them. I don't really care about them. Like, we don't even know people, and we do this subconsciously. For real, we do. And you wanna know why? It's because of all of our past experiences that stay with us, and we relate to people through them in the present. This is why we need to travel this road for ourselves. If I'm telling you, you guys, number one, you need good friends in your life. Number two, you need some people that are older and wiser and able to have a clear perspective and picture on who you are, who are able to speak truth and love into your life. Because sometimes we can be relating to people the wrong way and we want to blame them for our problems, when in reality, we're the problem. We're the problem. And we naturally view people as enemies, as friends, indifferent towards them, and we need to realize that we've been through some experiences in our life that have caused us to do this. And even for me, man, I'm still on this journey. I thought I was so self-aware, you guys, and I still have so much learning to go. One of the things that I realized about myself is I am a protector. And when I feel threatened, I will raise my voice, and I don't even think I'm raising my voice. And it's like, you're yelling at me. I'm not yelling at you. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I am. I actually am yelling. And I'm a really passionate dude. So when I feel threatened, anger is one of my driving forces. And part of that is because of my experiences growing up, you know? Part of that is seeing my mom's boyfriend like abuse her and me stepping in to protect her and myself. I was put in situations to where I had, anger was my only defense mechanism. Otherwise, I would have, I would have gotten injured, right? So, and I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. Sometimes the things that we used as defense mechanisms in the past that helped us survive are the very things that are killing us in the present today. Yeah. Yeah, you're not a child anymore. It's crazy. It's crazy. Blows me away. So you need to travel this road of digging deep into who you are, and you need to find these false narratives in your heart. These lies of, when I feel threatened, I need to be bigger and stronger. No, you don't. When I feel threatened, I need to be vulnerable and I need to express how I'm feeling. That's what courage is. Courage is being able to share your whole heart, you guys. It's not putting on this facade of strength. It's not. And I don't know what it is for you guys. That's why I'm saying you have to travel this road for yourself. But one of the things that I have to tell myself over and over and over again is it's when I am weak, that's when I'm strong. It's when I am weak, that's when I'm strong. And I have to tell myself that over and over and over again. So then that leads us to the second thing. After we've traveled this road and after we get to the root causes in our life that lead us to relate to people this way, I truly believe that we can't release them from liability until we do this. Like, what this means is people have hurt us intentionally or unintentionally. It really doesn't matter. The thing that you're called to do after you resist superiority is to release them from liability. So what we do is we hold people liable for the pain that we experience in our life. We do, all of us do it. And what we need to do as we're resisting superiority is we need to release them. We need to release them. So this means instead of making them pay, we pay. We're the ones that pay. Why? Cliche Sunday school answer, right? Because that's what God did. That's what Jesus did. That's what Jesus did, and he is our example. He could have called legions upon legions of angels and wiped out the human race. He could have destroyed that evil that put him on that cross, but you know what? Then he would have had to destroy us too. So in his grace and in his mercy, he exacted the cost or the punishment on himself. He absorbed it. He took it. And we are called to do the same things. And this doesn't mean you're in an abusive relationship. Just continue to allow yourself to get abused. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. But you don't foster bitterness and anger and resentment and unforgiveness towards these people in your life that have hurt you. Because in the end, who's that gonna hurt? You. That's right, yourself. So you need to release them from liability. And the verse that we have is Proverbs chapter 24, verse 28 to 29. It says, don't testify against your neighbor without cause. Would you use your lips to mislead? Don't say, I'll do to them as they have done to me. I'll pay them back for what they did. That's economic language. That's not relationship language. That's not the language of forgiveness. That's the language of a hard heart. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 9 says, whoever would promote love, which is what we're called to do, covers over an offense. You cover over the wound. But whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. And last week we talked about it, and I'm going to talk about it again. When we've been hurt, we can't stop replaying it in our head over and over and over again. And we want to go and tell as many people as we can about how that person hurt us. Yeah. I don't know why. Like, that's supposed to make us like, oh, I do know why. Because naturally, when we're feeling superior, we want to exaggerate our righteousness. I want to exaggerate my goodness. My goodness. Sounded weird. So what do? I go and gossip because I want people to know that I'm good, I'm righteous. And you guys, we don't even know we're doing this 95% of the time that we're doing it. We don't even know we're doing it. So even when we're gossiping, and so you know what I'll say? Yeah, I'm not trying to talk bad about them, but da-da-da-da. Or I'm not meaning to gossip, but da-da-da-da. And it's like, yes, I am. That's exactly what I mean to do. It's exactly what I mean to do. I'm not saying they have a problem, but da-da-da-da, you know? Just stop. Just stop. For real, because what do? You hold your tongue. When you know you're not ultimate authority, you're able to hold your tongue. Whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. Why do we do this? It's because we haven't resisted superiority. That's why we do this. And that's why it's like so important to recognize the root of superiority and how we all want to be ultimate authority in our lives. It's so important. And I wrote down, why can't we let it go? Why can't we forgive? And I feel like we've already talked about these answers. Man, I had another really good tangent that I was about to go on, and I just lost it. It was about resisting superiority, overcome evil with good. Man, it was so good. Don't leave, I promise I'll remember. Dang it, what was it? The next one's overcome evil with good, but it was something else before that I wanted to go over. Whoever would promote love covers over an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. What are you guys' thoughts so far? No, for real, this is pretty heavy stuff, huh? It's true stuff, huh? Yeah. I know. Yeah, it is. It is. Ah, yes. Yes, thank you, Jesus. Come on. So this is what I was going to say. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm about to lose it. All right. So it's so hard for us to resist superiority. It's so hard. It's so difficult. And this is where all of our problems come from. It is. We want to be ultimate authority in our lives. And this is something that I've been telling myself that we all need to get better at. We all need to get better at. So often we go through life, and when we've been hurt, we resort on those survival tactics that we were forced to learn at an early age in order to protect us in the present, when really it ends up just killing us in our relationships. So what happens is when we face conflict, whether it's intentional or unintentional, we want to fight our own battles. That's what we want to do, and we don't want to allow the Lord to fight for us. So if you guys are like me, what you'll do is you'll come into these situations with clenched fists. And I was talking to my buddy this week, and it's not even enough just to open up your hand, you guys. He's saying what we need is we need more palms up. We need more palms up. And just write down palms up. Because so often, even me putting my hands down on this table when I'm in a conversation, this is a posture of authority. This is a posture of fight. And one of the things that I've been telling myself is whenever I get into a heated situation or a moment, I just want to turn my hands around and lift them up. That's it. And what I'm saying is, Lord, I don't want to fight this battle. I want to hand this over to you. And I don't have ultimate authority. You do. So please work through me in this moment. Like if you're in an argument with someone, like just pray, and if the only thing you can do is just turn your hand open, and they're gonna be like, what are you doing? And who knows, you might apologize, I don't know. You might just say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Instead of, what did you say? I can't believe you said that. Palms up, just turn them. Saying, God, I don't have the reins, you do. I don't have ultimate authority of my life, you do. And I guarantee he will honor your step of faith and obedience, and he will work through you. And you know what's gonna happen? You're gonna be able to love people and see them as he would. That song hit me in such a hard way tonight. Gosh, I might have you come sing it again at the end. Yeah, I think I am. For the one. Thanks for that. Thanks for agreeing. So the last thing that we need to do, you guys, or second to last, and I'm just gonna hit these real brief because I really do wanna hear that song one more time and I wanna hang out, is it's not enough just to get in conflict with people and be like, I'm just gonna separate myself from them. You know what? And honestly, this is hard for me to say. This is really hard for me to say. Again, I'm not talking about abusive situations, but when you're in conflict with someone, it's so easy just to write them off. It's so easy. And my personality, that's what I like to do in conflict, is I wanna write people off. Oh, okay, you're not for me? Then you're against me. Deuces, out, gone. That's what I do. It's so bad. It's so bad. And it's not enough for me to be like, you know what? I don't have anything against them, but I'm indifferent towards them. It's not enough. That's not what God calls us to do. He calls us to overcome evil with good. In Proverbs chapter 25, verse 21 says, if your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. Like, Krista wasn't joking. Bring your enemies to retreat in 2 weekends, for real. If he's thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. I don't know what the Hebrew is for burning coals on his head, so we're gonna have to talk about that some other time. But basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna show them the heart of Christ. And you're gonna be an ultimate witness for them. You're gonna be an ultimate witness for them. And you're gonna love them exactly how it is that they need to be loved. Because in all reality, the reason why they lashed out or attacked you or whatever it was, is probably because they're hurting. And that quote that I had last week, are you willing to hurt more for them than you've been hurt by them? Are you willing to hurt more for them than you've been hurt by them? And it's not just feeling bad for someone, it's really overcoming evil with good. It's blessing those who would choose to persecute you. And then the very last thing is confront only if necessary. Sometimes again, what does it come back to? Every single time, what does it come back to? Superiority. Every single time. If you have not gone through this process, and if you've not released them from liability, and if you have not genuinely forgiven them in your heart, and if you genuinely don't want what's best for them, then you are not ready to confront them. Bottom line. Sometimes we feel like we need to confront them because we want to make things right out of a need to feel superior. And it's hard for us to admit that. So confront only if necessary. And you guys, I was reading my devotion today and I was talking about the Galatians. And what happened to the Galatians was they forgot that it was the Spirit who works in us. And they started to rely on their own human effort. And they started to preach a gospel that was contrary to the gospel of Jesus Christ. So they were pursuing the Christian life apart from Christ. And what happened to the Galatians was they were putting these heavy yokes on people and forcing them to earn their salvation and earn their forgiveness. And Paul was like, listen, you guys have got it all wrong. You forgot what it was that was originally taught to you. And I feel like we're like the Galatians a lot of times. I feel like it's easy for us to look at this process, right? And to be like, oh, I can do this. No, you can't. No, you can't. This is a supernatural lifestyle. Supernatural. This is not natural. This is supernatural. And the only way that you enter into that supernatural lifestyle is through supernatural means. And this is what I mean. It's only by God's Spirit and His grace that is active in your life that you're able to do this. And you know what? If you're a lot like me, you see this, you read this, you hear it, and you're like, I can do this. And then conflict arises and you blow it. And if you're a lot like me, it's because what are you doing all day long? Are you spending time with Jesus? Are you reading the Word at all? Honestly. And I'm talking to myself too. So we expect these divine outcomes in our life, and we're not spending time with the one who is divine. You get what I'm saying? So we rely on human effort, and then what do we end up doing? Causing a mess. And it's because, you guys, we have to be so close to Jesus. If we're gonna bear any fruit, we've gotta stay close to that vine. We have to abide in His presence. We have to. And it's not enough just to go through your days and I pray to God. Okay, that's good. But are you spending time with Him in His Word? Are you fellowshipping with other believers? Fight for it, you guys. Fight for it. I'm telling you, fight for it.